whole thing is, in life, how do you find ways to figure it out? It's not easy.
It's uncanny how much of that stuff will come true.
My philosophy is always put my own mask on first.
Go back to the frameworks. What was your framework for finding Renee?
Welcome to Money Mavericks, the podcast where we explore the dynamic world of finance, investment, and entrepreneurship.
I'm Kirk Drake.
And I'm Daryl Hicks. Together, we're here to bring you the latest insights, expert opinions from the trailblazers who are redefining success in the financial world.
The challenge I always find is the values conflict, right? So I want to be a good dad and I want to work out, right? And so then that manifests itself. Well, my kids can't necessarily work out with me in the morning and they want to work out with me in the afternoon, right? But then that screws up my discipline and the rest of that. So which do I pick? Do I pick going to the gym first thing in the morning without the kids and then not being able to hang out with them in the afternoon and work out and teach them how to squat, how to deadlift, whatever? Or do I pick the afternoon knowing that the afternoon there's a much higher likelihood that it gets canceled or something? And that's where I always find this like epic struggle of discipline versus a core value of where they're conflicting in some way.
Yeah. I mean, my philosophy is always put my own mask on first. So in that situation, I would be like, work out in the morning and then coach them in the afternoon.
Yeah.
And then if they cancel, because they probably will, because that's what happens with my kids too. They're like, oh yeah, we're going biking. And I'm like, okay, cool. I'm not going to work out because we're going biking. And then we don't go biking.
and then you're like, oh.
How about I fix this problem? I'm going to work out anyway. And if you want to go biking, I should have the energy. We're going to go biking.
Yeah.
And, but I think that's the whole thing is, in life, how do you find ways to figure it out? It's not easy because like I coach a lot of people on my fitness program and the emails are like, so am I eating something different than my family is? More than likely, because I don't know what your family's eating, but if it doesn't look like this, then probably. They're like, oh, well, that's not cool. I go, okay, so now you have a decision. Like, do you care more to have parity of the meal in front of you as your family? Or do you know what I mean? Because like that's all I'm asking. I'm not saying don't eat with your family. I'm just saying what's on your plate is different than what there's on their plate. And guess what happens if you do that? They're gonna go, well, what is that?
Right.
So like all of a sudden now my wife eats our meal plan, and then my kids eat less of because we don't have it. If you don't have a dessert, then they don't even think about it. So it's kind of like the whole like. You'll influence other people just through your actions.
I think I love this analogy, and it's the one that I use too, of like put your own mask on first, right? So for me,
it sounds selfish, but it's so important.
No, but it's really important because we've talked about this like a ton of times. Like your kids are going to follow your actions way more than what you say. So
monkey see, monkey do.
That's right. Be that lighthouse, right?
Yeah.
So for me, like my workouts are at the time that I can fit them into my schedule. They're a non-negotiable, and there's absolutely nothing that will cause me to cancel those workouts.
Are you a better dad afterwards?
100% I am.
What a crazy idea.
I know. It's amazing. And I invite my kids, my two boys, because they both have expressed an interest now in coming to the gym with me, my 17-year-old and my 11-year-old. And I'm like, great, well, these are the times that I'm going to be at the gym. Oh, well, that doesn't work for me. Okay, it has happened every once in a while that I was able to shift a time around to a time where they could come with me. But then there's also plenty of times where I'm like, my schedule is loaded. I'm locked in. This is the time I'm going to be there. But you know what? Like, I'm going to create a little workout routine for you. But more often than not, they're able to look. Their schedule is a little less demanding than mine as a CEO and everything. But they'll find the time and they'll come with me, and then it's great. Now Tristan's like got his buddies he's going to the gym with, and I wrote out programs for them, and they're off and going. So,
but it also shows them that you prioritize yourself.
Yeah, which I think is a great dad thing.
Yeah.
It could be dangerous too.
Yeah.
Like
if you take advantage of it. Like if you're selfish about it, it's just even the date nights, right? So like sometimes like partners are like, oh, I feel bad. We haven't seen our kids in a while. It's like, no, this is our time. Yeah. I want my kids to see the byproduct of what I believe a relationship should look like. Yeah. Right. I want them I don't think I see my parents show any affection to themselves ever. Yeah. Like when isn't that crazy?
So go back to the frameworks. What was your framework for finding Renee?
So funny part is I didn't know I was a framework guy until I met people like Daryl, and they're like, man, you're such a framework guy. And I'm like, you don't think like this or act like this? He's like, not as much. And I'm like, so I will tell you the Renee framework. And so
of course there's one. Of course the answer is like there is
because it came from, it always comes from challenges and pain. So I used to be engaged. I was 27 and I was a workaholic. and came home and found out that she didn't share the same desire for work as I did. And she left. And it was one of the hardest times in my life, for sure to that point, one of the hardest times in my life. And what was beautiful about it in hindsight is it created almost like a full, like clear, like everything I had a belief around was a reset because my world shattered. Like finally successful in business, finally making money. We just bought a house together. We're getting married in, I think 6 weeks, and then the whole thing just shattered. So I had an opportunity to kind of go back to kind of basics and say, well, who do I want to be in a relationship and who do I want to be in a relationship with? And I started reading some of these books, The Way of the Superior Man and a bunch of others.
Oh, great book.
Yeah. Like just, and again, I would have never gone on the journey to even read this kind of literature had I not had a problem that I was like, ouch, don't really want to feel that again. And the funny part is for 6 months, I thought maybe this is just the Dan archetype and I shouldn't be in a relationship. Like that was a crazy thought. Knowing how much I love Renee and my boys, that was a decision of, hey, maybe I should just be the rich, fun uncle and not, because I didn't want to hurt somebody the way I'd hurt that person. Like I was just not a good person to be in a relationship with. Very selfish. And so eventually I did some work, and one of the key exercises that they recommended, I don't remember who it was or what book, was to just write down and get really intentional about who you want in a partner, right? Knowing that no one person will ever meet all check boxes, but at least now because I think what I was doing before is it was almost like by default, not by design.
Yeah.
And not to take away from the person I was engaged to, she's incredible, but it wasn't because that's what I was looking for. So you think about who I'm married to now and who I was engaged to, 2 different people. Like she worked at the government. Like just on that front, let's talk about that, right? She still lives in the place that I live. I've moved 4 times.
She's there to help.
Yeah, it was a beautiful experience for me to understand. So the framework was, I wrote down exactly what I was looking for. I was actually talking to someone about this yesterday, so it was very vivid, like, athletic, family values, adventure, blah, 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 entrepreneur. And then I'm into tall blondes, so tall, blonde, blah, blah. Again, not saying it has to look like this. Did I date shorter brunettes? Yes, but I knew exactly what I was looking for. And then I gave myself time to not jump into a relationship, not date a lot, but just be okay being alone too. That was a big thing. Like I wasn't okay being by myself. And that was a thing, some work I did through that journey. And then it's funny because when I met her, I didn't know she was a one, obviously, the first time I met, but I knew she was like definitely met that criteria.
Because you had written it down, right?
I wrote it down, man, and I looked
what
for
you're
it.
looking for when you're not.
I'll tell you, because this whole back there, I'll introduce you to Tina, a bunch of 20-year-olds, right? And they're like, a lot of them are like trying to find a partner. I just found a target rich audience. So it's like, where do you find a target rich audience of entrepreneurial women? Well, guess what? There's entrepreneurial events. I met Renee at an event.
There you go. Yeah, I think that and we've talked about this before too, the importance of like the 3-year vivid vision. It's uncanny how much of that stuff will come true as long as you write it down and kind of like it's always in the back of your mind. For me, it's like, buy a yellow car and all of a sudden all you see is yellow cars. Your wife gets pregnant, all you see is pregnant women everywhere. They were always there. It's just now you're attuned to it. You see it. Some people describe it as that the universe just wants to give you whatever it is that you want, but you have to decide and you have to kind of throw it out there.
Dude, if you don't have a goal, how are you supposed to score?
Yeah, exactly. There's no, when you don't have a destination, there's no favorable wind, right? There's all these cliches. You have to set your sails and say, this is where I'm going, and you run into rough water and you pivot. But like writing down what it is that you actually want.
I don't know if I ever told you this. When I first met Kimberly, I asked her what she wanted to do, and it was before going to law school. And she's like, I want to be a wine lawyer. She's like, but I can't figure it out because wine law is this really boutique thing, and none of the big firms have it. And I'm going to Duke Law and went and worked for a big firm. And fast forward 20 years, right? And we end up in Oregon in the middle of the pandemic. We've started a winery, and someone posted a job for someone who has in-house and corporate experience who knows something about wine regulation. And now she's a wine attorney for 1-800-Flowers. Like,
no way.
Totally bizarre way of manifesting the whole thing.
But she said it.
But she did nothing on her own to get there.
Yeah.
Right. It was just simply the sequence of things
How many
magically-
stories do we hear
Yeah.
like that though? Like, and again, don't worry about how it works or why it works. Just understand, trust the process, and know that it works. Get out there and.
But she
and
never
make it.
said it. That part fascinates me. She never said it again after to other people.
No.
Wow.
It was just something she said. I never really thought about it again. I didn't think when we moved to Oregon and started a winery that she would start making
Yeah, yeah,
wine
yeah.
and go
to
back to
practice
law,
Yeah.
right? And so, and she's never been happier, right? To be
so
fair,
cool.
I joke her happiness goes from a -3 to a 7 because she's part British. She's not capable of an 8,
I
9, or
love
10.
that you have a -3 in your rating. I'm gonna start using that.
So going into kind of more of the money things, if you were to think of maybe your life in like 3 stages at this point of like no money, bare bones, some money, and lots of money,
Yeah.
right? How has your view and way you approach money changed?
It's so
values,
fun. Yeah, it's so different. Because I have conversations about this all the time. I coach some of I just before this call, I coach a guy that does 600 million a year, self-funded, very wealthy, and the thing I try to teach him that I had to discover the hard way is none of the external possessions are going to make you feel anything. So the beauty of it. So when I think about money today, it's an amplifier of who you are, and we hear this all the time. But most people don't realize that everything they seek, as soon as you want something, you're saying that's outside of you. And anybody that studies spirituality realizes you are already everything you desire. You just have to figure out how to activate that. And it doesn't require anything external. So when it comes to wealth for me, what's shifted is less strategic and more aligned. So, and because it's less strategic and more aligned, it multiplies. So that's the part that, and I read this a long time ago, that most wealth is created between 40s and 60s for most people, regardless if you're an entrepreneur or not. So I got really excited because I learned that if I could align with my true desires, and that's tough. I teach people how to get into their true place of decision making from an embodied desire and knowledge. It might sound subtle, and I'll show you guys later in the studio, but I walked in one day and they moved the desks around and the couches and stuff, and it just felt off. And I told my GM, Todd, I said, hey dude, I really liked it before the other way. And I know you probably did it for a reason, but it just feels so. Even my angel investing or desires, I've gotten better at discernment.
Well, being in touch with that moment of I can't explain why, I just don't like it.
Yes,
Right.
and check this out, because a friend of mine said it best to me one time. I was talking to her about it, and she's the most enlightened spiritual person I know. She goes, when you snowboard, you've been doing it for a long time. I said, yeah. She goes, do you sit there and think about heel, toe, edge as you're snowboarding? I was like, no. She goes, how do you snowboard? I go, I just let it go. I mean, Kirk, you've come on my trip. I know it didn't end well for you, but as if I wasn't going to bring it up.
Yeah, no worries.
But on that trip, it is flowy and fun. And she goes, how about you just try operating from that place? She goes, I think you've been businessing long enough. And I was like, oh, snap, you're right. I'm still trying to go heel, toe, edge. And I didn't give myself permission to sit in my knowingness, my beingness, and then operate from that point. So anybody that's seen my life evolve over the last few years, that's all I shifted, which is I've gotten really honest with myself about what's aligned with me, not less necessarily what's strategic about me. And guess what? It turns out from a wealth creation point of view,
That's huge.
yeah, because then you're truly aligned in the activities of the things you say yes to.
Right.
And the no's are easier. You don't even entertain them. It's a multiplier effect, not a linear. And most people, I think, create wealth linearly. And when you can start giving yourself permission to really tune into that, especially if you've had a career at it. See, I had been doing it for 25 years.
Right.
So I just forgot to just get into flow and to trust in the process.
On Money Mavericks, we don't just talk about making money. We explore the innovative strategies and bold decisions that drive real change. Whether you're an experienced investor, a budding entrepreneur, or just someone looking to make smarter financial choices, we've got something for you.
Every week, we're going to sit down with industry leaders, visionaries, and mavericks who share their journeys, challenges, and breakthroughs, from contrarian views on market trends to the secrets behind building a successful startup. You get an inside look at what it takes to thrive in today's economy.
And we promise to keep it real, engaging, and most importantly, actionable. No jargon, no fluff. Just straightforward conversations that you can apply to your own financial journey.
So get ready to challenge your thinking, expand your knowledge, and take control of your financial future. This is Money Mavericks,
where we turn financial dreams into realities and mavericks into legends.
I think it's such an important lesson. What's hiding like in plain sight in what you just said is the value of really knowing yourself, trusting yourself, and letting it be. I was hanging out with I won't mention the name because I don't have permission to, but an A-list celebrity who does shows in New York on a regular basis. And he was speaking to a group of entrepreneurs, and he told this story about how he would go to the head of house at the show in New York and say, make sure that the first 6 rows are filled, because that's all I can see when the lights are on. And I don't want any empty seats in the first 6 rows because it messes with my head. And I want to feel like every time I'm presenting to a full house. And one of his friends criticized him and says, well, that's pretty narcissistic. Like, you're only going to do a good show if it's to a full house. It sounds like maybe you've got some work that you need to do. And he's like, you know what? You're probably right. And I probably will do the work so that it doesn't bother me as much. But for now, it's okay. I know myself and I know that this is what I need. And I'm going to give my best possible show if all the seats that I can see are full. So it's okay. I'm going to allow myself to do this.
Put your mask on first.
Yeah, exactly. Put your mask on first.
Know what you need. Allow yourself to request that preference. Like that is probably.
But doing the work to actually figure out who you are, what you really want, like it ties in so much. And like, yeah, this is a money podcast, but I knew that this is where we're going to go because I really do feel that all these things are intertwined and it's like the belt buckles and bank accounts. It's the discipline, it's the frameworks, but so much of it is the intentionality to sit down and actually decide and really figure out what good looks like. Send the message out to say that this is what I'm looking for and I'm going to go get it. And then just watch the magic happen along that journey, which it's been amazing to actually watch the evolution of Dan over the last few years. It's incredible. You're an absolute machine.
And the funny part is like, I am just starting. This space is only less than a year old, man. We moved in here September last year.
So knowing that and having kids and having parents and siblings, all who have different financial situations and values and whatnot, how do you connect the dots between for them on your relationship with money and how that impacts all of them?
I have a simple frame. I think every kid is homeschooled, whether the parents know it or not is the decision. So let's just, so I'm very intentional about what I teach my kids. I would say if I had to break down kind of like, because they're exposed to wealth. I mean, they fly on my private jet, so I can't hide that, and I'm not going to fly commercial just to avoid it. I used to do. I was dumb. I'd sit coach because I didn't want them to sit business class. I had some weird beliefs. I worked through those. What I do now is I show them how the world is. So we're very involved in charitable projects locally in the community. So they've seen that. We've been to many parts of the world where they've seen that, just even the fact that we live in Canada or you were born as a Canadian is very different than other people. So let's be grateful for that. So huge amount of gratitude. I don't buy them everything they want. I buy them what they need. Anything they want, I go 50%. That's my rule. So if you want anything, 50-50, that's where I've gotten to on that one. And then the bigger part is even just wealth transfer. Like I don't plan on leaving my kids anything. They know that. So if you ever meet them and say to them, oh, wow, you're rich. They'll say, I'm not rich. My dad's rich. They say this all the time. Yeah, I can't help it. I drop them off at a birthday party in a Ferrari. They're like, oh my gosh, you're rich. And they're like, Noah goes, no, I'm not. My dad's rich. Like I'm poor. I'm very poor. Okay. I tell you, $12 in my bank account. Don't got money. And then, but what I teach them though, is that the world rewards those that create value.
Yeah.
That is it. Literally, we talk about how do you create value? How do you become more valuable to the market? So both of them have their own little skills they're working on. One of them's already monetizing it. And I just teach them actually the process of how to invest in themselves. Because that's the only thing that I know works. It's like invest in yourself more than you invest in your job.
I have 2 out of the 3. So mine are 13, 13, and 14 at this point. 2 out of the 3 can pick a goal, pick a skill, work on it, create value, generate income. The third, money's not a motivator at all. Like they're perfect. They don't spend any money, right? But they're perfectly happy sitting at home. You can tell they'd be fine living in the basement until they're 30, right? Like I'm not fine with that, but they're fine with that.
Yeah.
Right. And so it's always this funny like element of how do you match that together?
Well, if you also talk to my kids, they tell you at 17 they gotta get out of my house.
Yeah.
And then my wife goes, I'm going with them. So that's the running joke. Now at 17, I probably won't. Hopefully they don't see this, but I probably won't be so harsh in my.
Right.
But I set them up mentally, so they've asked questions like,
Yeah.
"How much does it cost for rent? Hey, Max, you go first. I'm coming next." You know.
Right.
But I also the other thing the
They need to know
philosophy.
that money, it's a lot more rent if mom's going with
Yeah. At least their clothes are gonna get cleaned. But the other thing is from a parenting point of view, I disconnect their need to be anything, and that's also the kind of like a wacky kind of duality of I'm going to show you how the world works. It rewards people that create value. You're not rich, I'm rich, so don't expect me to support you. And at the same time, you don't have to be anything for me to love you. So even with their school grades, like I don't care. I care if they care. I asked them, they're like, hey, I got my report card. I'm like, do you want me to know? They're like, no, I don't care. I was like, cool, I don't need to know. Some parents literally think I'm an irresponsible adult.
Right.
I don't care. Like all I know, I didn't create the test.
Right.
And I know they can read and write. And I know that they're great little dudes. And that honestly, like in the grand scheme of life, are they teaching AI at school? No. Okay. Well, then right off the bat, the curriculum's probably flawed in regards to where the world's going. So,
and all the data long-term shows that whatever performance you gain from micromanaging them at this age has no
direct correlation,
long-term value generated.
I just, to me, it's character traits. It's teaching them how to invest in themselves and self-esteem. Right? Like a lot of the people that say, oh, my kids shouldn't be on social media or whatever. It's like, no, you got to teach your kids how to have self-worth, because the bad behavior that comes from a lot of these platforms is from not having an internal locus of control and really like understanding their own self-worth.
Yeah.
I think the lesson on the greatest gift that you can give your kids is that gift of unconditional love. And that doesn't mean that there's not natural consequences to good choices and bad choices. Of course there is, right?
Yeah.
So, but teaching the kids that, you know, there's a separation between my love of you. Like if you make bad choices, I'm going to be very sad. It's going to hurt me. I might even cry, but I'm still going to love you no matter what, no matter who you become. But, you know, wouldn't it be great if the natural consequences of your choices were leading you towards a path of happiness and abundance and what you consider to be success? So let's talk about that. I think it is very, very freeing. And that's the next sort of frontier of parenting that I'm still not doing it exactly right, but that's what I'm trying to lean into.
And guess what? Who knows? We never know. It's a 20-year split test. We can't split test.
Exactly.
Right. And the whole like, well, I don't want to create a situation where my kids have to go to therapy. Good luck.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Not going to happen. Trust me. Like that moment they fell off the monkey bars and you didn't look at them right away, that created a therapeutic.
I just want it to be cheap, easy therapy.
There we go.
What was our buddy Joey who said, like, you know, I know that it's inevitable my kids are going to end up in a therapist coach. I'm just trying to minimize the amount of things they have to talk about.
Yeah. Those core memories.
I think it's a good lens.
Yeah, but on the flip side, I will say the source of my comedy and stand-up totally comes from the dysfunction of my parents.
Well, there you go.
Totally.
Right? Like that was
Making
99%
lemonade
of
out of
it.
Well, and that's the funny part is we can't bubble wrap them because we are who we are because of those challenges. Like, so it's kind of funny. I used to worry like, am I going to really take my kids into the woods and drop them off and tell them to find their way home as a way to create, you know, challenges, you know, because like Ben Greenfield did that. And then I realized when I started seeing the world just react, I was like, oh no, the world will just do that for them.
Yeah.
Like, like I don't have to make it worse.
No.
No, like just let them, but allow them to experience it, all aspects of it.
Anyway, Dan, this has been absolutely phenomenal. I was hoping that we'd have a chance to talk about the book because one of the things I know is that you had some very big, bold, ambitious goals and plans with the book. And it ended up even, you said to me privately, 10x even what you expected. And I know there's a framework behind it, but maybe we'll have to save that for another conversation.
Any other time, man. It's an honor. I love this dynamic. You guys have a great thing going on here, and it's an honor, man. Like I actually just anytime I get the chance to just speak about things, even the book's out there, but this conversation was pretty fun. I don't get chance to talk about money and
crediting 3.0. We'll come back for that.
that
won't exist, just to be clear.
Yeah.
Amazing. You're the best, buddy. Appreciate you.
Appreciate you guys.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks for tuning into this episode of Money Mavericks. We hope you found it insightful and inspiring.
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. And be sure to share this episode with someone who needs to hear it.
Stay connected with us on social media and visit our website for exclusive resources, episode transcripts, and more.
Until next time, keep pushing the boundaries, making smart moves, and turning your financial dreams into realities.
You've been listening to Money Mavericks, where Mavericks become legends.